Hello, welcome back to another session of CareersPlus powered by DN69 in collaboration with AIT Entrepreneurship Center. I'm your host, Jennifer. Today's topic is about money essentials for young professionals building financial self-reliance. This session helps participants build basic financial awareness, develop healthy money habits early, understanding saving, investing, and financial discipline, avoid common financial and compliance mistakes. The goal is not to create money experts. The goal is to create aware, disciplined, and financially responsible individuals. In the past, we have explored careers, life design, and personal growth. But without financial discipline, even the best plans may struggle. Money is not everything, but misunderstanding money creates unnecessary stress. Today's focus is on simple habits that support long-term stability. So now I would like to welcome the co-founder of CareersPlus, Mr. Bargab Mohandas, to start off our session, Money Essentials for Young Professionals. Hello, Mr. Bargab.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you, Ms. Jennifer. Good afternoon, everyone. So, yeah, like we had been talking about designing our lives in accordance, in a manner that a successful career becomes a part of it. And more than once, we mentioned that amongst the factors that we need to be mindful is how we manage the money, because we can have all the other success around, but if on the money side we struggle, that can definitely create a lot of stress and negative energy around us. So today's session is especially for that, because most of us, in fact all of us, we go through this phase. Some of us are naturally aligned in doing the best things, and some of us are not. So let's try to create a balance. So before going into it, let's not let's not get the wrong understanding that today's session is about how to make very good investments. It's not like nothing like that. It's just touching the very basic nuances that we all should focus, so that we remain self-reliant with whatever we earn. So why it matters? Why money management matters, right? So the first thing, automatically, like before managing it, to manage it properly, we should have some clarity, some awareness, right? Because financial awareness definitely help us in terms of stress reduction, in terms of our decision making, and then avoid some unnecessary debt of any kind. In fact, when we swipe our credit card simply because just paying 5% of it every month, so that is also in a way putting ourselves in some unnecessary debt. And of course, like to create long-term security, because without this awareness, income doesn't translate into stability, right? And financial mistakes compound over time, because as many people say that money is never enough. The more we have, more money we have coming in, our desires grow more and more, and that's a very human thing to happen. So that's why I think we don't have to compromise with it, because what happens, we have two cases: certain people who simply spends more than they should and get on the harm's way, where some who focuses only on saving as a priority, and in the process, maybe get some solace only seeing the bank balance number going up every month. But so let's not compromise on either side. Let's try and figure out how we can maintain a balance. All right. So basically, the whole awareness about money is regarding having a process where it's more about how we manage it rather than how much we earn. So the the three foundations of personal finance that we all should have clarity is: first is earning, so how we generate income. And today's session is completely free of any career path, because all this are absolutely relevant to each individual, irrespective of whatever path we might have chosen. And it's for us, the individual, not for our organizations or something. So let's not misunderstand, right? So this is basically, we need to manage ourselves well, so that, before we think of focusing on the work. So that's how we see it. So that's from that perspective. So the first thing is that earning, that how we generate income. How many sources do we have? More often than not, maybe many of us might have only one source if we just work. That is just our salary, right? But if so we need to understand that, okay, how much we earn, and how do we earn that, right? And then second is saving. That means from the earning, how much do we retain? And growing. So growing is the part that, okay, how we increase the wealth over time, right? So automatically wealth increment is also another part of it, right? So that's why, if we really want to have financial stability, we definitely have to have all three of them. That means earning, saving, and growing of the value of the wealth that we do have. So that's why I think from the very beginning, it's always essential to have a clear understanding of cash flow. Okay, this kind of word, word like cash flow, mostly we always use with things like in the business, but actually even our lives, cash flow is very relevant. So what is cash flow? So cash flow is actually as simple as that. It's money coming in minus money going out, right? So it's as simple as that. If it's a positive cash flow, means we have done reasonably well in saving, and that can help us in future investments, which will actually help in terms of growing the value of the asset we have. And if it's negative cash flow, meaning that we are spending more than we are earning, which automatically can lead to debt, and which can create stress. So that's why, like when we talk about this cash flow thing, so let's be very realistic, that let's not literally put the number, because suppose, for example, whenever we come across maybe making use of our credit cards for longer tenure, then maybe cash flow wise, yes, cash coming in and cash going out, it might look positive, but let's not fool ourselves with that, because we just have to eventually see that what is the eventual number simply by paying 5% or 10% of the minimum requirement of the credit card, and we keep, eventually at some point in time we have to pay, and when we do something, and because of that, suppose just swiping the credit card, we keep on buying more and more things. So that basically leads us to negative cash flow, because the more due amount and the interest in the credit card increases, means we're increasing our debt, right? So that's why I think we need to be very careful in understanding the meaning of this word cash flow as well. It's not literally how much cash going out and how much cash coming in. Because money, when it comes into us as an income, mostly it comes as cash. But when it goes out, it has many faces, right? So that's why we have to literally see that money going out means it's not just the cash going out, it's the value going out. So that's why we need to have the understanding in terms of the concept of budgeting. So this budgeting is very essential in terms of assuring that we have taken care of the basic necessities in the rightful manner. So for example, like, what does budget mean? So budget means we have to track the income, then we have to categorize the expenses, and then control whatever we feel it's unnecessary, right? So a very simple structure to do it, that all our, whatever we have, then we just need to break it down into three parts: that needs, wants, and savings. So needs is the part that is essential, that we, no matter what, we need to spend it, right? So we need to identify that part first. Wants is, okay, the things that we because we are human, we need to have some some amount of self pleasure endeavors as well. So those are like to by enhancing a comfortable lifestyle. So those ones are wants, and then savings, that's basically eventually help us in terms of adding more value, right? So I think that structure is quite important, that if we learn that the moment we have started income, if we can understand breaking them down into these three categories in terms of our own budgeting. So the art of saving early is actually quite powerful, because every single penny saved is actually a penny earned, right? So it's a common proverb. So the thing is that more we save, automatically we are adding financial cushion as we grow, and that financial cushion basically gives two facets. One, it takes us towards the path of independence, and then at time of real emergency, it also can provide us the necessary support. So that's why, like in terms of saving, let's not think it the way that, okay, I mean, okay, right now we are earning quite less, so why should we compromise too much with the lifestyle? We'll start like save, and no, I mean, every single penny matters. So I think let's make it a habit that, okay, if this is our income, this is what should be our saving. And I should be the last one to give this kind of advices, considering the way I have grown myself, throughout my working career. But from the mistakes I made, so I'll be the first one to suggest that, no matter whatever we do, this is very essential to plan it in this manner, because otherwise, like life can teach us the lesson. So that so it's better that we learn early and not face the consequences going forward. Then it's always important to plan an emergency fund. This is maybe, okay, we cannot start it right away, but after we work, say, for a period of 3 years or 5 years, so that we can, because the thing is that when we plan things, in terms of saving and budgeting, it's always important to keep, an emergency fund, because we don't know at what kind of surprises we might come across, right? So normally it's like something like equivalent to 3 to 6 months of our basic expenses. So if we do our budgeting well, we exactly know that for our own lifestyle, what is the basic expense, and then maybe if we can keep 3 to 6 months of that amount as a basic as an emergency fund saving, that always helps significantly, and then even in a crisis situation, perhaps we can we can stay away from having the need to borrow from, be it from family, be it from friends, or be it from our credit cards, because lower is the debt, it's better it is, right? So that's why this kind of preparedness also reduce the financial stress. Now, understanding debt, since we've been talking about, let's not try to go under debt too much, right? So let's also not get too scared of debt, because debt sometimes it can be, actually a very good source as well. So that's why I think we need to understand the kind of debt, whether it's a good debt or a bad debt. So what we call good debt, debt that supports the growth. So if someone is taking a debt for education or to learn some skill, that's a good debt, because I think that debt, whatever, this is for our own growth, because when we grow with the help of that, then the kind of funds that we can generate, we can definitely take care of that debt. And the second thing is that, the debt which help, in acquiring appreciating assets. So these appreciating assets can be maybe own a house or own some land, or invest in some profitable project. So for that purpose, yes, why not? Like suppose we take a debt with even in our own thing, on our own business, we do that, right? We take debt from the banks, maybe at say 5% interest rate, in some investment where we know that we are making maybe 15% profit. So that means, okay, we pay bank the principal, we pay them their 5% interest, but rest is still our. So basically, yes, if we are taking debt for things like that, that debt is not bad. But what is a bad debt now? So bad debt is actually a debt that is driven by consumption, right? So that means we don't have the cash, but we have some credit line in the credit card to buy an iPhone. I don't know what is the current number, maybe 17 or something. So iPhone 17 Pro Max. So if we look at our pocket, we may not have that much of cash, but our credit card has that thing, and if we just swipe it, it'll say 0% 10 months, and then again, if we default in that, maybe okay, it's just small interest. But I think that kind of debt is not very. That's not definitely a good debt, right? So for example, I still remember a long time back, more than 20 years back now, and in fact, that person is not here anymore. He passed away some time back, but he was quite a simple guy and always focused on enjoying life. And I still remember that. Okay, but he did it for a very brief while, by the way. So he just wanted to buy a camera, and if I remember correct, that camera I think would have cost 15,000 baht. So he took a debt of like a loan of 20,000 baht from another friend. Why? Because 15,000 baht definitely to buy the camera, and 5,000 baht because once he buys that camera, his friends will ask him for a party. So that's what a party. But with the obvious hope that he's getting into some business which will get him enough money so he can repay so something like that. So that's why, like, I think, but then again, no matter what, that kind of debt may not be put forward as a good debt, things like that. So yeah, I mean, so we just need to be clear about this thing. Sorry. So no, sorry. So sorry, is it okay? So that's what I think. Let's be very clear about what is good debt, what is bad debt. So the basically any debt that is driven by consumption, that actually put us that doesn't add any value to what we are doing. I think we should try and avoid them. Because otherwise it simply enhances financial pressure on us, and it can definitely act very adversely. So that's why debt itself is not a bad word, but we just need to understand what is good, what is bad, and act accordingly. So we should be very careful in this. Simply because it is available, we shouldn't be using it. And then that goes even in the case of running business as well. Like for example, some of us, when we run our own organizations, then we will, okay, and assuming that we start quite well, we might be given facilities like overdraft by bank. So what is overdraft? Basically, it's a cash limit that, okay, even if there is no money in the bank, we can draw it from the bank at a very high interest rate, and at some point in time we need to return it. So that's why, like, why should we just make use? Okay, these things can be utilized under extreme situations, but not just like that. So that's why we just have to be mindful of this. Now, well, introduction to investing means let's not, let's keep our hopes realistic. It's not about investing and becoming an owner of a unicorn overnight, but it's just the very basics that, no matter whatever is our income, we can start investing from the very rudimentary level, right? Because investing definitely it helps that growth process, as we discussed, right? We just say that why we need, once we start having income, so what we have to see, we just have to see how much revenue we generate, how much we save, and how we grow the value of this. So definitely investment helps that part. So what are the basic concepts of that? First, compounding. So that means investment helps to generate further earnings, which basically justify why we are investing. Then the time horizon, that means in longer duration, it supports growth. And of course, the other thing that we have to be very much mindful is that risk versus return. That means whenever we expect higher return in some investment, it involves higher risk too. So automatically, investment we should always see as a long-term discipline. If we really want to do it in risk-free manner, not some real quick gain. So I think that's a very basic of what we can start. Now going to the common financial mistakes that many of us do. Some at the very beginning of our career, some maybe when we start having our income going up, and some maybe relentlessly like me, unless one day you just get the knock on your head. So like start spending without think of about saving, completely ignoring the requirement of budgeting, relying on the credit unnecessarily since it's available, so just let's use all of them. Comparing lifestyles with others and try to just match, and then chasing quick returns. The last two, maybe personally, I never did the last two, but the initial three, yes, I did. I did quite a bit in my life, and I think eventually the outcome is not very nice. So that's why I think we should avoid all five, because in long run it definitely gets back at us, and the final outcome is always quite disastrous. So let's stay away from that. So then, now that we have covered both the positives, basics, and the things to be avoided, so what we can do, we can actually sum it up that okay, we can build some healthy financial habits which will include tracking all the expenses very precisely based on what we really need and what we want, okay, realistically, but assuring that we save consistently. That should not be going on. It's not that okay, this month I went on deficit, but no problem, next month I will just live a bit of live a miserly life, so I will save much. No, let's not get into, let's be consistent. At least let's make it a point that this is the range I would like to save every month, and this is the bare minimum I have to save no matter what. All right. Then of course avoiding impulsive spending, because simply because someone who gets lesser salary than me took iPhone Pro Max 17 and I'm still using 13, so let's not do that kind of funny thing. So let's avoid such impulsive spending. So let's be focused on that. Then of course any major expenses that we think, so these major expenses normally comes from what we want part, not what we need. What we need is a general expense that we have to have for our survival. So when we say that we have a category called what we want, so these major expenses we should think from that segment, and let's plan them quite properly, and let's review regularly. We can in fact have our own finance, which CareerPlus will definitely create as well, that our own finance monitoring tool, that okay, this is our target at the beginning of the year. So you see, actually when we do things like this for our own self, actually we are turning into entrepreneurs as well, because these are certain things that companies do for its own survival. If humans start doing it on our own, automatically we really get fine-tuned, so let's have this healthy habits that automatically shape positive outcomes, because money has a strong influence in life decisions. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, that we might be having everything else perfect, but if our own financial status is really tough, it definitely takes a lot of our creativity, a lot of our positive energy going down. So that's why, like, financial stability influences what it influences careers flexibility, because sometimes maybe we are very unhappy with our existing career path, but we still are continuing. Why? Because if we leave the job, maybe we will suffer financially. But if we're financially stable already through a proper planning, that we have this bandwidth. Even if I don't have a job for next 3 to 6 months, I can survive. And with our good capability, maybe we will definitely figure out what is our alternative career path in that point in time. things like that. Second is of course lifestyle choices. So of course, like with financial stability, a stronger financial stability, definitely we would be in a position to maybe expand the range for our what we want. Of course, like when we start with a clear cut what we need and maybe a small what we want, because that what we want, we are human, it changes, right? It expands. So it expands from, maybe it can start with something very basic like um, maybe a good meal every month, to it can be anything, right? It can be buying a private jet, right? So if we have a proper financial stability, then this lifestyle choices, that what we want, also gradually can expand very, 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 very organically. Then that also helps us in terms of ability to take risks, because sometime if we really want to, uh, you know, take certain steps in terms of growing our finances via investments, which again involves risk. But then again, if we are financially stable, we know that okay, we can afford to lose this much, then let's try and take the risk. Because a lot of time we don't do anything simply because, like I said, we are in that merry-go-round, that the month starts, by the end of the month we get this much revenue, and and that is what is keeping us moving forward. So that's why, like, if we plan it well, we have good savings, we have strong financial stability, yes, and long-term security, definitely. I mean, I think if we get all the three enhanced, or long-term security is there. So that's why, like, financial discipline supports life freedom. So that's why, like, all this money matters also can very much impact our life decisions. Now, whatever we discussed all this while were generic to any career path, but let's try now to map it to the different career paths, that how we can see the financial aspects impacted. So we're starting with the corporate jobs, the first career path. So normally, what is the income pattern? It's a stable monthly salary, right? So definitely we have a job, means the salary will keep on coming every month. So what should be our focus? We should have the focus towards budgeting and saving. We should definitely have some tax awareness, because there are many ways to save the taxes, which I think we have been discussing. In fact, CareersPlus Plus will provide that kind of support if any young professionals want to focus on these aspects. And then long-term investment. So someone who's into a corporate job, I think they would see, like, these are the key focus. But what are the risks? Of course, the lifestyle inflation. This is what expanding the range of what we want, right? So sometime it happens, right? Like, it's very natural for people, like, who start their jobs in corporate jobs. So first, when we get, I think we are simply happy because we got a paycheck, right? So that we don't have to take money from home. That's the first sense of happiness. But as we expand, that okay, maybe we just have to think about, okay, we are now on a rented place, so should we go to buy a living place, or maybe invest on buying a car or something like that? Suppose most often people would choose to go for a car first, and then, with that car, maybe having a spouse sooner than later, the next focus goes for a house, a small, maybe, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, small apartment. Then the family grows. So so that is the expansion, and people, like more often than not, this is where the as their monthly that stable income increases, those requirements also increase. So that's what they go in tandem, right? And the second thing is the dependency on fixed income. But of course, like, as long as people stay only on a corporate job, of course, unless until they're C-suite in something like Google, So automatically it's always a salary, and maybe at the end of the year bonus. Sometime maybe some people get a half yearly bonus, something like that, right? Of course, some big conglomerates they might have some stock options, whatnot. But here we are talking about at the very beginning stage of our career, so it pretty much remained like that. So we just need to be aware of this. We are not talking about good, bad, or whatever. We just need to be aware of all these aspects and plan accordingly so that we have stability. Now, the second career path is academia and research, which would go quite similar to the corporate job. But of course, corporate job, perhaps the growth is a bit faster because, of course, there over there many a time the growth is dependent on their employer's overall performance as well. Because if their job place is doing good profitability, or having good, so then obviously the employees tend to get good bonus, fast track promotions, and things like that. But when we talk about academia and research, so I think income pattern is again moderate and steady. It'll be steady, and the focus should be again discipline, saving, long-term planning, and financial patience. So if we go back on the here, the focus would be more on budgeting, saving, tax awareness, because normally corporate, like as we go along, the income tend to get like incremental part tend to get much faster, right? So that's why, like here, but normally from the mindset perspective, if someone is completely accustomed to this lifestyle of academia and research, they won't think that much, to be very honest. They won't be hungry too much about what fancy car they're driving, or what fancy appliances they're using. But the risk remains that the income growth might remain not as fast paced as it is in case of a corporate person. And when someone is in the entrepreneurship, assuming that they don't have any other room, just purely entrepreneurship. So you see, some of us maybe combination of all the three, if we are having all the three aspects associated with our life, right? But when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think Professor Dieter would be a classic example of traversing across all the three. So that's why he's safe. So that's why. so that's why Professor Dieter, in my opinion, is the safest one. Some of us are, I think, category B, and I'm this category C. So this one is the biggest risk and return, but of course the returns are also equally big. So here you see income pattern. It's irregular and uncertain. It's irregular and uncertain that sometime when it comes in bulk. Sometime it may not come for months, right? So that's why here the focus should be cash flow management. Very important. Second thing, to separate personal and business money. That's very, very important too. And then maintaining reserves for long idle period. So that's why. And the risk here is of course income volatility, because if we focus only on this, it just like I said, sometime we might have things coming in bulk, and sometime there might be drought for months, right? And financial pressure, that's why that increases financial pressure significantly. And sometime it happens that, like, the prioritization and fund disbursement can also become very, 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 very tough, because sometime maybe if we're an entrepreneur, we might have bills to pay at home, and we might have bills to pay at work. And how we prioritize, that's very tough. That's very tough. So in extreme situation. So that's why, like, these aspects we have to be very mindful, because the thing is that it also is essential from another perspective. If someone wants to get into entrepreneurship, but they're thinking in terms of their financial planning, they're thinking like a corporate person, right? Then also it just might be a wrong perception, because when we are in a corporate job, we are bound to have a good revenue coming in every month, right? Things like that. So that's why it's very important in terms of having this awareness depending on which path we have chosen, right? Now, the basic financial responsibilities. So we just need to be very clear about avoiding common compliance mistakes. So first, a lot of time, I think taxes. So sometime we don't understand the basic obligations, or we are not aware of deductions, and at times we maybe forget to even file returns on time. So okay, the ones who works in a corporate, most of the times I think the company looks after that. But sometime if we have to look after our own taxes, so it's bound to happen that such thing. And then it's actually another thing that's very essential to understand the nuances. Like for example, Tungi's just we had an example in our room itself. Like the other day, there was an urgency that his tax had to be filled in within an hour or something, and apparently the person who does it here was not around. So I said, okay, no problem. Our office will help it, his tax filing. And when we did the tax filing in a correct way, what we found that almost equivalent to a month of his salary is refundable because he was overpaying. Because normally what happened, many a times employees don't know exactly how to plan the tax, right? So they leave it up to their employer, and employer deduct the taxes. So we just came across that actually the deduction was far more than it should have been. Actually, Kunnan caught it. So she caught it, and then they said, "Oh, this is over deduction." So we put up a case, and we claimed that right away, in less than a week, it was refunded back. Yeah. And it is in this place, right? So I'm not sure how you guys are maintaining your taxes. Maybe doing the same thing that he's been doing, right? So the thing is that that's what, and it's not a small saving. The one that we got, it's almost equivalent to a month's salary. So sometime that's why we also have to be mindful of this, because sometime if we ignore, we might end up paying penalties, and if we ignore and overpay, then also because if we don't claim, they will not give it, right? If we don't claim, because claim, oh, he's not about to be back. So basically that's why, it's very essential that we remain at least with the basics, of things like at least for taxes. There are many ways that how we can actually contribute to the common causes that actually gives us some benefits from the government, or even some organizations like United Nations, where we can actually save our taxes by doing some meaningful work. So that awareness is very essential, because that definitely helps us in our financial responsibility. And the second thing is financial records. So this is, again, I think it's more about having a self-discipline that track our incomes and expenses on a regular basis and keep it well organized, so exactly we can we can know exactly that how our finances are being handled. And then the this one, compliance awareness, because sometime if we simply late filing may attract penalties. And in fact, I think he's about to be. Let's have a quick this thing live on. Tungesh, you are needed in this room. We're talking about tax awareness, that how lack of this tax awareness might end up make you pay a penalty, and then how how proper awareness can make you claim back a good chunk of money, that too from the government within a month, right? So that's what we are now this, because this is, I think, relevant to what happened a year ago, and we just talked moments back what happened just a week ago. So that's what you see. Sometime if we simply don't know that this is the time to file our taxes, and we file it late, simply for late filing, we pay penalty, right? So things like that. So I think these are the basic aspects we just need to be mindful. And the last but not the least, that whenever needed, seek guidance with professionals, if at, because this really helps big time. And I'm the one giving all these lectures now, but on my own thing. I also lost big time because simply I was not mindful about all this, you know. In fact, I felt very, very proud that, see, the thing is that we are definitely are bound to pay all what is due, right? It is our duty to pay tax. It is our duty to pay taxes that is due. But what I'm trying to say here is, if due to lack of discipline we overpay, that is not our due, right? That is our, so that's what, so whatever is our due that we have to pay on time or before time, you know, if possible. But the thing is that if due to lack of discipline we end up paying more, well, that is not smart, right? So that is the thing that we have to be, so that's why whatever is our due taxation, we should be absolutely like to the point to make, but make sure that due to our laziness or lack of understanding, let's not, you know, let's not pay penalties unnecessarily or lose opportunities where actually, because you see government is so kind, the moment they realize that it was overpaid, within a week a check was posted. So you see government also wants to promote this kind of awareness, right? So that's why like this financial responsibility actually reflects professional maturity. So that's why I think, now I think after traversing the entire sphere, I think we can just put like simple financial framework that, like we talk about life framework last time. So financial framework, we can just govern it with 4 pillars: earn responsibly, save consistently, protect wisely, meaning this emergency reserve, and grow gradually. That means invest, but with the proper plan, right? So this simplicity actually can lead to sustainability. And let's try and have certain, you know, personal money rules that actually I mentioned moments back already, that spend less than we earn and save before we spend. Of course, avoid any unnecessary debt to the extent possible. Whenever we invest, okay, let's invest for the long term. Okay, like sometimes people as a fund want to do this short term investment, make big returns. Yes, let's try them, but of course for that case maybe just consider in mind that, okay, even if this money gets vaporized, we don't mind, you know, if we have that kind of reserve. And of course remain disciplined throughout. So reflections to ask ourselves that, I think it just might be a bit too early for some of us who are still studying, still, but of course for the ones who have started earning, so there's the thing that we need to ask ourselves: that do I track my spending? Do I save regularly? What is my biggest financial weakness, and what habit will I improve this month? You know, to get the situations better. So this awareness is always the first step to the discipline, and it's for Careers Plus actually how we can help. The same thing. If you lack clarity, we have definitely consult and add into it. If there is any poor spending control, so that automatically we can create this tab, because it's, again, I think it's one of it's in the SKUs anyway, in terms of developing those controlling tools. Of course, if there are some discussions required from Careers Plus side in creating how we create the habit of savings, of course we can always have this discussion in terms of getting very to the point. And yeah, if there is any fear of investing, so Careers Plus Plus is always happy to support in guiding through the process of proper investments. You know, if there is any doubt. So basically, the key SKUs that we have from this session are the budgeting template, like personal budgeting template, then expense tracker, and financial basics guide that be applicable to anyone. And that's pretty much for the session today. So yeah, so over to you, Ms. Jennifer, and Professor Dieter would welcome your added remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bergab. And with us today also is co-founder Professor Dieter Chow, who wants to add something, sir. You can use the mic.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer.
You got it.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, so we talked about saving I think there are probably many people have two main questions. Okay, first they may ask how much or things like this. Second, if they save into what? Yeah. So in terms of how much, I think it doesn't matter how much it is, but you can see it maybe as a part of your monthly income. Should be 20% at least, I think, in my opinion. Try to do 20%. So it's less important how much it is. It's way more important that you do it consistently. And don't use something you say for something else and things like this. So more important is to do it consistently and have the discipline. And you can put a goal, you know, maybe think about 20%, but can be different on your situation. But it should be something so substantial, okay? It's not 2% or 5%. Yeah? Then the next question is, you know, now you are saving. Let's say you are doing it consistently. You have the discipline. Everything is good. So what I'm doing now with the saved money, I think the first thing is that we already mentioned in the presentation is to create a reserve, and I think we mentioned 3 to 6 months of a reserve. So this should be something cash or what is basically cash equivalent or something like this. So after you have built this up, then you can think about saving and, you know, how you invest the saving. So that's, of course, there are many possibilities, and there's no one, you know, right or wrong decision. And of course, it's linked to risk and so on and so forth. But so this is another, probably would be another total session we could make out of this, you know, topic. And of course, now there are more modern instruments of saving, like, of course, coins and stuff like this, which, yeah, debatable, you know, what is the risk is, or other things. But, you know, one saving, and that is also, will be a very big decision. You know,
I think
if
essential
you,
saving should be cash.
yes, so your first saving is cash.
That has to be cash.
3 to 6 months
that has to be
reserve,
cash, yeah.
and that you are not touching.
Yeah,
but after you have, let's say, reached your desired reserve, let's say you put it at 4 months or 6 months, you know, what you do now with the other money, you know, that's not longer saving. Then you go into the investment mode, and there are many possibilities. Some they are quite flexible. You can buy it, you can sell it, things like this. But there is a big decision that will impact your life for a while. If you want to buy your first own home or something like this, that is something you have to be think about for a long time. You know, that's what we put in the presentation as, you know, you should never save in something or invest that is depreciating. So it must be an appreciating asset. You know, it could be your first home. It doesn't matter how big it is. But I would say it's more important to do this for your own use instead of, you know, renting it out or something, you know. But if you use it for your own use, I think in most cases it's good, but you have to be sure you can pay the debt. And that is what we have in our presentation as good debt, but good debt can also become very risky if you cannot pay it back anymore. So that's very risky. So you have to be very careful doing that.
Yeah, I think one common thing that many people do, that they would just raise enough to buy the down payment for a condominium or something, then put it on rent, and whatever EMI they have to pay to the bank, the rent is more than that. So that takes care of the EMI, and when the price apprises, then they just sell it off. So a lot of people do. That's the very basic one that many people do. Yeah. But anyway, there are many ways.
But it's hard now, you know, this old model, you know, you pay.
Now it's tough.
And you cover the loan. With
now it's very
the
tough
rent.
because okay, especially in Bangkok, to find a tenant is not that easy anymore.
Yes.
Because it's oversupply of
Yes.
condominiums.
You know, I would say it's a better decision if you do it to use it your own, you know, to use this property by your own, because then you have a guaranteed use and value of it. Otherwise, you don't have a guaranteed use and value.
So basically, EMI is the replacement of the rent. Right? Yeah. But yeah, that's still better.
Yes.
It's now time for question and answer. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask now. So while waiting for their questions, I want to ask, since we're talking about rent and own, so which is better, to buy a house or to rent a house or a condominium? Which better? What will you do? Do you rent or do you buy?
I think practically buying is better. Buying with how to say, with a reasonable debt structure is better, because see, the thing is that if we rent, we keep on. I think whatever we pay, whether we pay the EMI or we pay the rent, the amount is more or less the same, right? So at least when we keep on, when we buy it, so we own the asset. But if we just simply rent it, at the end of the day, because and I'm saying it from the perspective when I have a rented space for nearly 12 years now, and the amount that I have paid until now to the owner, with the same amount I could have bought it long time back, so it's
Are you still renting?
yes.
You didn't buy it.
Well, see, the thing is that initially I rented it, that there's a small disclaimer. Initially I rented it because I thought it's for a very short duration, because I bought some other assets elsewhere. But then, so that's why at that point in time I offered to pay rent rather than buying it. And later on, when I decided to buy it at the price that they offered me, they didn't need the money anymore. So they would rather prefer to rent it out, or if buy, they double the price. So in all this,
You missed the opportunity.
but I also like the place, so I kept it. So I still am paying the rent.
Yeah, I think buying is a good option, but you should not push it to the limit. So you should pay up at least, if possible, 30%. I would say at least 30%, and don't push the monthly payments to your limit. So if you can do it, then I think it's a good decision to buy and to use it for your own use, to guarantee that it's a value coming back to you.
Tungish, you have a question?
It's not a question, it's a point for discussion. So I just want to ask, what is the difference between being rich and being wealthy from your perspective?
All these things are, if you ask me, I think it's a state of mind, right? So the thing is that the way I have seen it, a human mind, no matter whatever you have, it's never enough, right? So if you ask me, the way I say it, that we just need to focus on, do we have the amenities that we think we should have, right? And it can be anything. So it's more, maybe more being about being content. So maybe if you want to use the term, maybe wealthy is a more suitable term, because being rich, I think it's just a state of mind. But being wealthy is what? Where we see wealth. And do we have all of them? If we have all of them, then we are wealthy. That's how I would see it. But then again, I think it's subjected to, and it changes too, right? I mean, depending on how you evolve, it changes too. But you're talking in terms of what? Bank balance or assets, or how do you want to define that?
Not anything particular, but in terms of career, like if someone is aiming to be rich, so one should aim for rich.
I think, see, the thing is that it has to be defined, right? So for example, when I started, and if I see someone driving a Camry, I think he's quite well off, right? And now I don't want to go too far away. I just look at myself, and I think I drive slightly better than that, right? And I feel I don't have anything. I think I don't have anything. So it changes, right? So automatically that's how it is, right? So I think that's why I use the word, it's always being a state of mind, right? But of course, let's aspire let's aspire to have things and try and acquire, as long as we're doing it in the rightful way, putting our best efforts. It's always good, right? We should always enjoy all the good things. We're not talking about, we should enjoy everything good, but we have to earn it the right way. That's it. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
So usually the richest people are also the people who has the most debt. Even if they can afford it, they usually put it on credit and then they slowly pay it off. For example, if they're starting a business, even though they have the money in their bank, they will still take loan and then slowly pay it off. How do you see that as?
No, that's a very smart business decision, as long as they don't defraud, they don't fraud. Some people even, they just use their credit lines to raise funds from the bank and siphon the money out to their tax havens, and then, get the company declared bankrupt. The bank is always in collusion and declared it as a bad debt. So that's kind of a fraud. So obviously no one would support that, right? But many times people are smart, because the thing is that rather than using their own cash, if they can leverage their bank credit lines, that's a very good way of doing business. There are two ways. So as long as it is done like I told Tungish moments back, right? We can have all the luxuries in life provided it's earned the rightful way, right? As long as we haven't cheated anyone. So same goes with the banks. I would say that if someone had that kind of credit line with a bank and use the banks, leverage the things that come from bank without using their own cash, and make real money, multiply their money and pay back bank what they're supposed to pay, it's a very good way of doing business. Very good. But if we come across so many things off late, right, where the people simply using their names will take big loans, then things get sort of like diverted as funds to different channels, which eventually turn out to be their own shell companies somewhere in Mauritius or somewhere. And then they declare those companies bankrupt and they don't return the loan, and banks also write those loans off as bad debts. That's very bad. I think I could answer your question.
Yes, in Bangladeshi perspective, a lot of big businessmen do this. That's why, it's very fraudulent. Like they take the money, they don't intend to give it back. They just show a business and then they show loss.
Yeah,
And
they should be behind the bars. They should be behind
They
the bars.
should be, but they're usually also very politically powerful.
Well, that's the problem we have in, and I think I think we all as global citizens should do our thing. So let's at least our community try to do the things the right way. And then I think it's full of so many things. I was just talking to Miss Jennifer just before this, like one of the things that one of my company sorted out yesterday, where some new companies were denied their due payments by some very large companies, simply playing some tricks on paperwork, where this is another kind of service we have started giving out to people, inclusive of proper litigation support, where we stepped in and figured out a way. Then they had no other choice but to make the payments what was due to that small company. So yeah, the world is seeing a lot of things which seems very funny, but but the thing is that we just have to focus on doing the right thing, and anything that's fraudulent, whoever does it, they should be behind the bars. As simple as that.
You have a question?
For the short-term investment, is it good or bad? And what are the options?
Short-term investment, I think, it's risky. It's not good or bad, it's risky. So if we apply ourselves well, it may turn out to be good. And if we don't apply ourselves well, I think we really need to, like as Professor Dieter also said, right, we really need to understand it quite well. Let's not use impulse. For example, I'm just thinking out loud here. What I see a lot of even my own people doing that. Like some of the people, they invest on stock market, right? So what they see, that they just see like a certain part of their savings, they put it like they don't mind being parted by that saving. So that means they don't want that cash to be with them all the time. So rather than keeping that in the bank, they would put in the stock market. But they would very categorically put in the stocks. They will play around the stocks, like, because normally the stock market will announce the dividend at least maybe a month or two in advance, right? So they would just put the money in that particular thing the day's dividend is declared, and then at least they will get the dividend, which is maybe about 5%, right? And after that, sometime during that period of time, the stock price also appraised. They also, so sometime you have to understand this kind of nuances, and then it might be good. But then again, having said that, it's short-term investment. If like the intention is to get the whole thing back with a big multiple, better not do it, because it's very unlikely to happen. But if this kind of short-term investment, that okay, we part with some amount of money, and then okay, for some short term we keep on getting the interest, something like that, I think that we can plan and well. But sometimes, of course, if we're lucky, then we may just get big return, because I even had one of my proteges, or at least I thought he was a protege from France, spent when XRP initially came to the this thing about 7-8 years back, Ripple. So I think he bought at 7 baht per Ripple, and in a matter of 15 days it went to 100 something, and then again crashed to 3 baht or something in the next 6 months. Okay, and I think currently I think Ripple is about 40-50 baht or something like that. So it is like a luck thing as well sometimes. But short term, you need to define what do you mean by short term, But if it's something like what my ex-protege got, so that you have to be lucky, no other way.
If there's no more question, we have to end the session for now. But we will see you next week for another session of Careers Plus Plus. So thank you all for joining. Thank you, Professor Dieter. Thank you, Mr. Bergab. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. See you again next week for another session of Careers Plus Plus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
If you found this content useful, please hit like and subscribe our Careers Plus Plus channel. Thank you.